selling and branding and marketing aren't enough for sales 4.0 or for business 4.0. You've got to create organizational gravity. It's what keeps attracting your clients and customers to you. It's what keeps your employees in orbit. I know. It's your organizational gravity. And to your point, this binge worthiness. I know, yeah. Working on it.
The idea of creating connections is important for today's marketers, but it may be even more important in the world of inside sales. At a time when buyers are inundated with dozens of messages every day from competing brands and sellers, it's nearly impossible to stand out and to get the attention you deserve. But what if you could use your own natural genius to cut through the noise and connect with prospects on a more human level? What if you could use some simple tactics to plant yourself in their long-term memory and to build a real relationship using only digital channels? Welcome to Creating Connections, the show that explores the human element in an increasingly digital business world. I'm your host, Tyler Lessard, and today we're speaking with Dianna Geairn and Shawn Karol Sandy, two of the most amazing and knowledgeable people you will ever meet in the world of B2B sales. When Dianna and Shawn aren't training sales teams on how to generate more pipeline, they can be found hosting the YouTube series, The SellOut Show, where they interview boots on the ground, phone in the hand salespeople to uncover what's really working in today's world of digital selling.
Tyler, I am thrilled to be here. I think this is a super important conversation to have right now as our sellers get kind of burned out trying to do things digitally. This human-to-human connection is what really energizes people. So my name is Dianna Geairn, and I am the co-founder of Trade Show Makeover, where we help companies leaving money on the trade show floor.
I love that tagline.
I love your tagline. But before you start, Shawn, we should make you very human to people, because there's something going on with your face that I want them to look at so that they don't have to look at it the rest of the time. You poor thing.
Point it out. Yes, very human. Go to your dermatologist and get your moles checked on at least an annual basis. I'm missing a couple chunks out of my nose. They're out for biopsy right now, so fingers crossed it's nothing crazy. But yeah, I've never done so much video as I have in the past 2 weeks with a Band-Aid on my nose.
It makes you very human.
Yeah, as a side note, if there's something holding you back from getting on camera, if I can do it, you can do it. Dianna did a good segue here. Shawn Karol Sandy, my firm is the selling agency where we coach humans how to sell to other humans, because selling like robots or jerks is so 2010, or used car salesman is so 1970s. Any way you look at it, it just sucks. Don't sell not as a human. So we build sales strategies for team members, and then build skills on how to take that go-to-market strategy to market, and then do skills gap coaching for individual sellers and contributors on the team. And then together, Dianna and I love sales and are so passionate about it that we talk about it weekly on our YouTube video cast, the SellOut Show, because we're always sold out.
Big fan of the SellOut Show over here, and in fact, I was honored to be a guest on the show, which is how you two and I got more acquainted by having a real human conversation about what I do in my life and how we do things here at Vidyard, and hearing about you guys. And I think actually being on a video show is an incredible way to get to know somebody and build a real relationship. So thank you guys for having me on your show. And as we dive into the topic here today, what I'm really excited about is you mentioned the word human several times, and we're going to play bingo in this episode. So everybody get your cards down. Every time we say the word human, once you get to 58 times, you win a prize. Okay, so keep track. But you guys are, I think, really passionate about the topic at hand here, which is the need for sales teams and individual sales reps to be thinking about human to human as the way that they sell, not business to business, not business to consumer, but really people to people, and what that means in today's age of being, in most people being in a remote digital selling world, I think that's a challenging thing. Maybe I'll start with yourself, Shawn, on what you guys, as you've been doing the SellOut show together, as you've been doing research in the market, what are you finding these days is like the really important concepts of, why people are struggling in a digital selling role, and sort of where that world of being human and being more personal is starting to intersect with that?
I've not heard anyone else talk about this, but I've put so much time and energy and thought into why is it we just our language, our jargon, our professional speak is so vanilla and boring and awful and robotic. And I mean, it really starts with the Industrial Revolution. The way we teach people, we started schooling the way we did to take kids and make more factory workers. And the Industrial Revolution was about tools and things to scale. And we really haven't changed. If you look at our education system, we've not changed the way we educate people. So you get kids go to high school and then to college, and then you go out of college, and it's like, let me go put on my parents' suits and my parents' shoes, and I'm going to show you I'm an adult, so I'm going to talk really professional and have all this, show you my respect because I'm going to use this very formal language and stuff. And we've really screwed the pooch on creating human connection that way, because we tell ourselves and train people that we've got to just be really professional and buttoned up, and it makes us all sound like the same person. And it's lost that human and that individuality, which makes things interesting and fascinating and compelling. So I think that if you look at where we've come from and what hasn't changed, that's why we are in the pickle where we are.
A pickle indeed. For nearly a century, we've focused on automation, scale, and standardized processes as a way to make our businesses run efficiently. It started with manufacturing and back office operations, but in recent years, it's also become a staple of how we market and sell. But in the B2B world, selling is so much more than just a robotic process. It's about educating buyers, earning their trust, and connecting on a more emotional level. And it's important not to forget that making a purchase decision on behalf of a business is actually a very personal thing.
I stole this directly from Eric Quanstrom, who on this particular interview is my second favorite chief marketing officer in the world. But he shared it with me, and it was such an aha moment, is nobody gets fired for buying the wrong watch. But if you buy the wrong learning management system for your company, or you hire the wrong technology integration for your ERP, everything is screwed and you might be out of a job. And that is a very, very personal, emotional decision. So I think it's back of why people say, there are 4 or 5 buyers in every decision these days, because everyone wants to sort of mitigate that risk. But when you start to think about the emotions that are behind a sale, I think there's an aha moment for sellers today. And that is, we've gotten the ability to, with all the tech stacks that we have as salespeople, we've really gotten the ability to try to scale our ability to reach a whole bunch of new people. But what we've learned, and we've learned it decade after decade after decade, is you can scale your systems, but you can't scale relationships. And relationships are where those emotions get created. And it's one of the reasons that I love and dig video so much, is because there's a way to really be in the same room as somebody else. Shawn and I do this show once a week, and we do see each other twice a year, but it feels like we're in each other's offices, in each other's lives every day. So yeah, I think to minimize that business to business sales are emotional is a caution for people. It's really actually emotions I think are much higher.
You can scale your systems, but you can't scale relationships. Write that one down and stick it to your monitor, for truer words have never been spoken. But what does it really mean to build a great relationship with a potential buyer? Now, every sales rep has their own opinion on that, but Shawn and Dianna have done some recent research with B2B execs to get inside their head and to understand what they're actually thinking when they speak to sales reps.
First of all, this started from a blog I was writing, and I was researching the things that buyers hate the most in emails. So I put out a requested 20 of my connections and clients to the CEOs and even the admins and stuff said, tell me what you hate. And they all came back with things that drove them crazy, but no one said, I wish salespeople would curl up in a hole and die. No one said that. They said, I wish salespeople would be better at their jobs. So I had the idea to extrapolate and expand on that and do a book based on buyer research. So I have collected most of the research, but also the stories. Like I've got actual from their mouths. Tyler, what would you say if I said, how would you like to talk to a buyer that controls $1 billion worth of decisions? Would you listen to what they had to say about buying?
I think I would, yes. Let's hear what they have to say about buying.
Yeah, so the people in this book alone control nearly $1 billion of decision making. That's not even their companies, but this is $1 billion of decisions. And they reiterated and confirmed to me they don't want salespeople to, go away, to never call them again, or to die. They want you to be better at your job.
Right.
And here's what that looks like: know my company and know why you should be talking to me, and be helpful. I mean, that's a very cursory top of the line look at things, but it's just remarkable that between the practices and training and technology that we're using on both the sales side and the marketing side, there are actually things that are detracting from that experience. And people in the buying seat are so desperate for sellers to know what you're doing, know what my business is, know if it's a valid reason to call me, and be helpful. They're just desperate for that.
Yeah, I found something I didn't do as broad a research as Shawn, but I worked on a project recently where we were interviewing chief human resources officers, chief marketing officers, and CEOs about the way that they buy. And one of the things that really blew me away, I mean, obviously it's my business, but one of the things that really blew me away was that a lot of the people in the C-suite are just making a habit of ignoring emails. They're ignoring emails, they're ignoring LinkedIn connections. These are people that need to be really, really focused on the work that's in front of them. But what they do is they set aside time and mind share and even budget. They bring a checkbook to things called trade shows. And all three of those personas said to me in these interviews, and it really surprised me because I was doing the interviews for another client of mine. It had nothing to do with trade shows. And they all said, I do set aside time to go talk to vendors. And most of the time, I have my checkbook with me. And very few times does anybody know how to take advantage of that opportunity to have that one-on-one conversation. So I think what I'm pointing to is live events. When you have your buyer in the room, they're not being distracted by all the people that they have to manage and the emails that they have to answer. They're there to find out more. They're there to learn more. They're carrying a checkbook. And most of why live events fall on their face is, no offense at all to you, Tyler, because I know that this doesn't apply to you and you're super smart, but marketing usually controls the budget for those live events. And marketing is a one-to-many conversation.
Right.
But when you bring a one-to-one conversation in live events, or even visiting somebody in person, that's where you really can close a deal. And that's what I learned from the C-suite. They were telling me, they want to meet people at live events and they want to find new vendors.
Yeah, and I have to think that part of that is, the opportunity at trade shows to meet face to face, and it's the area where you can actually establish authenticity, right? Where it's people that are being genuine, and you can, within a 30-minute chat face to face at a trade show, not only can you learn what they do, but you can often see it, right? There's a bit of a seeing is believing, I think. There's an opportunity to really customize and personalize the conversation, but there's also that opportunity to, have a very genuine, authentic conversation and get to know whether you actually want to do business with these people or this company, which is so hard to do without being there in person, right?
Well, I'm going to keep it really, really brief, but you just hit on one of my favorite aspects of trade shows and live events is it's the only time where you've got a 4-dimensional event that you can take advantage of. So there are total addressable market implications, but it's time bound, right? So if you're at a trade show, it's not only person to person and you can see what's behind me and the visual experience that I wanted you to experience. That's all the 3-dimension, but it's also time bound, which makes it 4-dimensional. And that is a really powerful thing because exactly what you said, Tyler, I know, right? is it gives you trigger events, which
Right.
salespeople, oh my God, love a trigger event. But just what you said, and this is what Shawn, Karol, Sandy talks about all the time, your brain is a future prediction machine. And being at a trade show and how you are and how you present yourself and how your company presents yourself in a visual, experiential environment gives somebody an idea of what it's going to be like to work with you and whether they're going to enjoy that experience. So I will stop there, but I just think I think you could go on and on about the unique opportunities that people really don't know how to take advantage of.
I love the fact that Dianna brought up selling at trade shows, because that's the one channel where you actually get to be there in person, to connect with buyers as a real human, and to give them a sense for what it would be like to actually work with you. Now let's take a step back and think about the various channels that most inside sales reps have at their disposal, going from the least personal to the most personal. We have classic email, which is extremely limited, social media, which brings in more of our personality, the good old telephone, which adds voice and intonation, video messaging, which brings our face and humanity, video chat, which enables human conversations, and finally, meeting your buyers face to face. I was curious how Dianna and Shawn felt about these different channels, so I asked them which ones modern sales reps should be focusing on and how they can best take advantage of the unique characteristics of each channel.
Getting into the spectrum of tools, what I want to do, and the first thing I do with salespeople is I want to shift your perspective about using the different tools at your disposal. I think that, and I think some of the sales gurus out there help perpetuate this, but I want to just, if I could reach into salespeople's little minds and say, there is rarely an ever an email that laid the golden egg, or the one phone call unicorn script that works every time. It doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that. And what actually is more brilliant and what's crazy much more effective is it's the cumulative impact of your effort over email, social, phone. It's you're leaving all these footprints. It's not the Hail Mary, it's marching down the field. I mean, the Hail Marys get all the really, the highlight reels, right? I'm gonna throw a bomb and try this one thing and it's gonna be really effective. Whereas one email, one phone call, one voicemail, one LinkedIn message, it's more like marching down the field, getting yardage so that you can score. So that's the first place that I want to try to get your head wrapped around it. It's not going to be a one-time thing, a one-time effort, the one video even. Certainly video gets you closer, but it's like marching down the field so that you can score. It's the cumulative effect. That is so important. And then it's 50% what you say and 50% the fact that you keep showing up. That is what I've found, tried and true testing with my salespeople.
Yeah, I mean, mic drop, right? It's just so brilliant. How you keep showing up is exactly perfect. And I think there's one thing though, Tyler, that I like to talk about a lot, and I'm sure Shawn is sick of hearing this, but each of the different touch points allows you to be an expression of your natural genius. So I truly believe that every salesperson has inside them, if they're not passionate about what they're selling, they should move to something that they are. But once you get passionate about something that you're selling, you bring to bear your own natural genius about how much it means to you when you make a difference for your buyer, right? So for some people, they're going to be email mavens, like Heather Morgan. Oh my God, she can engage somebody on a cold email. She can even teach people how to engage people in a cold email. Fantastic. Social media. I find, you ask what people are getting sick of. If email went the way of the fax machine, be the happiest girl on the planet. But what I do like is receiving personal messages in LinkedIn from people that I've already decided to make a connection with, because I just throw away in-mails. Sorry, if you're paying for in-mail, I just throw them away. But I know that I've kind of given the green light to somebody if they're writing a message to me in LinkedIn. Video, we learned that people process visual cues 60,000 times faster than text. And we're natural storytellers. We respond to stories. Video gives you the opportunity to do that. Do it in social. Do it on your emails. One thing I love talking about video, I know you didn't need this to be about video, Tyler, but at a trade show, one of the hardest things to do is get people to engage with you afterwards. All you have to do is take a little video, a selfie video with you and the person that you met talking about why you're so excited to meet each other, and then keep that, email that to them after the show, send it to them on social. They're gonna re-engage with you. So those are the ways that, and then you watch Jeremy Levier, and he brings, look, it would be stupid if I brought a guitar and a basketball jersey to my videos. It would not be proper, it wouldn't be appropriate, but man, when he does it. So bring your natural genius to all these opportunities for your touches with people.
Mm-hmm. Natural genius from Dianna. You heard it there.
Shawn and Dianna are right. The Hail Mary pass rarely works. What wins football games is a combination of consistent performance down the field and tapping into your natural genius to surprise the defense with something they weren't expecting. And when you put these two ideas together, consistent communication and your natural genius, it can dramatically change how you think about communicating as a sales rep or even as a marketing team. How can you remain relevant and top of mind over a period of time while also standing out with something unique and true to yourself? It begs the question of how sales reps should be thinking about their own communication strategy if their goal is to create better connections with their buyers.
This is one of the first skills building sessions that I work with people, and it's how to become the Jedi Master of communication, because this is the starting point for pretty much everything else you do. And here's a really, really big key and a big part of that. 7 out of 10 workers are burnout, which means they're actively disengaged with their work and the work daily basis. What's happening is that we get interrupted in our work every 3 minutes. We're interrupted. Right. Most of us are checking emails between 70 and 80 times a day, and we are constantly switching between different platforms. Our brains are not meant to function this way. And so we're earlier and earlier and earlier on our workday cognitively overloaded. That means our working memory cannot handle shit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I
can attest to that.
By the end of the day, yeah. By the end of the day, when you roll up at home and your spouse says, "Hey, baby, what's for dinner?" and you want to punch them in the face, it's because you cannot handle another decision. You can't handle any more incoming information. So the key to that is that when we're cognitively overloaded, our working memory is just shot. We can't handle anything else in. So the majority of the messaging that I help salespeople work on is keep it so crazy, short, and simple. Most of our outbound prospecting messages are 2 sentences, and that's it. 2 sentences, that's it. So you've got, let's make it not look like work when someone rolls up to an email and it's, "Hi, I'm Shawn Karol, Chief Revenue Officer of the Selling Agency. We do this, this, and this." And it's like, go away. Yep. Stop talking. Instead, it's 2 sentences, and then we keep showing up with that. You end up, when you keep showing up with the same value proposition, it's really clear to understand what you want. It doesn't look like work. And then you can work into someone's long-term memory. That's the goal. By looking at the cumulative effort, it's to make it into someone's long-term memory because you keep showing up. That has been, I'm giving you a lot of training right here. That has been one of the most successful things I've ever done in my history of selling, much less being a sales trainer. It's shifting to that small line of communication in the prospecting outbound messages.
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely piggyback off of that. I think there's so much burnout with sales reps because, there are very few that stand out that don't seem burnout to me or trying to try something kitschy. And I think, I'm going to lay that at the feet of sales leadership, frankly. I've been privy to so many sales teams that are just being told to do, 150 activities a day. So yeah, maybe they are doing 12 touches, but the second touch can't be creative. It's gonna have to be, did you get the email that I sent you yesterday? All of that stuff that just clogs up our pipelines and clogs up our emails and really it makes us less human to one another, Tyler. But I think you're hitting on something really important here. And frankly, I think this is an area that is very unexplored. And so I'm not sure that there are quick and easy answers to the question that you're asking right now, because I think we're just right now learning how to manage the digital distraction. And frankly, I think it's somewhat depressing for people, to constantly be trying to get their self-worth and are they valuable if they're getting reactions from, these thousands of people that they're reaching out to. So I think this is an area where people can really start to dig in and surpass their competition if they start to figure out the answers to the question that you're asking.
As you talk about it, I think such an important piece, which, you guys just know, you live in it, day in and day out, but is that notion of, these digital communications are not just about educating and trying to get a call, but they really are building a relationship, right? One way or another, you're either building a bad relationship, you're building a trusted relationship, there's different kinds of relationships you can build. And I think the kinds of messaging that you create, the tone, the medium, all of those things, take it in one direction or another. And I think we could all, even as marketers, right, we think about these things of how is our ongoing communication creating and building a relationship with our audience, and what kind of relationship is it that we are building? And there's different ways you can do it, right? You can focus on, educating, being helpful, and earning trust as a guide. You can focus on something a little bit more personal by creating, more engaging, fun storytelling style content. There's different ways to go about it, and I don't think there's ever one right answer. But I think if we lose that mentality of this is an opportunity to build a relationship, then we're missing a big part of our communications.
So what if sales team members, SDRs, were measured on what's the quality of the relationships you built today?
Yeah.
Instead of, did you make 100 phone calls today? There's this thing called Geairn's law, and Geairn's law says when you use one piece of information as your measurement, it ceases to become a good source of measurement. And that's what I feel like when you have, you're measured on how many phone calls or how many appointments you book or how many demos. We're not saying anything about the relationships. And maybe that's who would be brave enough out there to try that, to say to your sales team members or your SDRs, what's the quality of the relationships you made today?
So Shawn, you could back that up with the Dunbar's number that we did together on stage. I don't know, are you familiar, Tyler, with the concept of Dunbar's number?
No.
So Dunbar was a sociologist who did work with primates, and he discovered that the size of the brain of a primate indicates how big their social sphere can actually be. So he extrapolated that the human brain can handle about 150 meaningful relationships at any given time. So that's Dunbar's number. And then Cracked.com, the magazine, I'm totally stealing this. This was Shawn's aha moments, but I'm totally stealing it from her. Cracked.com came out and said, they called it the monkey sphere. So wouldn't it be interesting if people that were creating these new relationships, like sales development representatives or people that were attending live meetings, judge themselves on if they could prove that they've gotten into somebody's monkey sphere, which means that you got to kick somebody out, right?
Yep.
If you're going to be part of 150, you got to bump somebody out. So that's an interesting concept.
Yep.
I think we always knew it as field reps. When people, this has allowed us to go out and be our awesome selves, and we got judged on those relationships that we could build and the real pipeline that we could build. I think we've lost a little bit of that with the new sales development role. And I think it'd be very interesting if we could start to kind of bring back that valued, validated relationship.
Now there's something big for you to ponder. If you truly believe that building strong relationships with prospects is key to driving better sales performance, how can you teach, motivate, and incentivize your sales team to build better relationships? In marketing, we can measure things like brand sentiment and share of voice as proxies for this. And in customer service, we measure NPS or Net Promoter Score. But what about in the world of sales? Now, whether or not we can measure it accurately, it's safe to say that modern tools like social media and video are giving us new ways to build these relationships in a digital selling environment. And I know that Dianna and Shawn are both big fans of video for that exact reason. So I asked them to share their perspectives on the state of video in sales and how sellers should be thinking about using it each and every day.
This is what I'll say about video. There's still plenty of time to get in on the early curve of the adoption curve here, because people are still really afraid to do it. There's still so much hesitancy around putting yourself out there, being in front of the camera, sending it out, someone else viewing it, someone else judging it. And there's still a lot of that. In spite of what you might be seeing on LinkedIn or seeing the frequency of, sort of lots of people talking about video, there are actually still an underwhelming number of people using video. So yeah, you have great opportunity if you're a salesperson, if you are a VP of sales, sales director, to have your sales teams leverage this and get some run-up time, because it can be a competitive advantage. Not enough people are using it. And the ones that are, this is a conversation I had with the sales VP the other day. He said, tell me about, what's working best and what's not. I said, listen, the people that are using video are getting better results. And that is the only thing you need to know about whether your team should use video or not. They're getting people to respond faster. They're shaking loose deals, people that have ghosted you, or people are not responding to calls. Video can get them to, it just shakes things loose. It can get them to respond.
Yeah, I mean, there are so many wonderful, wonderful things that people can do with video. And I think there's something that's coming in the future that's going to be really interesting, which it's my Netflix concept. But one of the things that I love to do with video, and I recommend that people do it, is be really cognizant of what's going on in your background. Because there's if you'll notice this, and you'll notice this on the SellOut show, it's very deliberate. Every single episode, there's more of an orange, dark, brown feel to my background, and there's more of a white, light, blonde feel to Shawn's background. And that's actually very indicative of sort of, the people that we are. And what's really cool is you can actually intentionally sort of set things up, right? So sometimes when I want to bring a little whimsy to the conversation, I'll just kind of place this picture of me and Shawn, with Shawn doing a handstand in the background, or just be really deliberate about the pictures that are in your background. And what that does, Tyler, is it allows you to do something that you never really got to do, even in person as an account executive. And that is invite somebody into your office. Be thinking about what you're wearing. Think about what everything around you is saying to your customer as you're talking to them on Zoom, or you're using, and I use Vidyard all the time. This is a really cool thing that I started to do, and it's I should not give my secrets away. I'm just kidding. But what I'll do is I'll record a question on Vidyard, and then I will post that onto LinkedIn, and I'll just ask a quick question, and I'll synopsize it in the title, and then I'll tag, my target customers, and I'll just ask them the question. I haven't shared anything with them about my knowledge, but I have shared that I know what the question of the day is about my topic. And what it does, it gives me the ability to ask my target market what they're thinking about. And they all tell me. And I go back and I watch the Vidyard results, and they're just, the videos are blowing up, and I can see that they're blowing up. So that's just, there's ways that you can give insights about yourself that you couldn't give before, and get insights about your target market that you couldn't get before. And that's all video. That's been a really awesome use for me.
Yeah, that's great. I watched your videos, Dianna. I used them last week in a video training session, your LinkedIn videos.
So let me tell you the Netflix thing, though. Okay.
Yeah, can't leave us hanging on.
Short videos. But I think there's going to be something, people are going to start to nail telling your story inside the customer journey and making it binge-worthy. I'm so obsessed with this idea of becoming binge-worthy right now. So anyway, I think there's something to it of bringing somebody along the journey with you in a way that makes it irresistible. Like every time I get to the end of Wentworth, I can't help but hit next.
Yeah. I have something to piggyback on top of that, and we're going to not get kind of meta here. But so, Dianna, to your point, one of the theories that I have about this next level of business is that selling and branding and marketing aren't enough for sales 4.0 or for business 4.0. You've got to create organizational gravity. It's what keeps attracting your clients and customers to you. It's what keeps your employees in orbit. I know. It's your organizational gravity. And to your point, this binge.
You better trademark that, baby.
Yeah.
I know.
.com.
So, but to your point, Dianna, when I put a blog post out there and on LinkedIn, people come to either my LinkedIn or my website, then they go and read all the other stuff. And because it's so packed with my voice, my passion, my purpose, my pithy comments and cheeky rhetoric, they've already decided that they want to work with me. Watching videos is the same way. They're going to watch one short video to the next one. And it's like putting your arms around people, pulling them closer to you. And because you keep having this content and filled with your culture and your personality, you're keeping people in your orbit. They're pulled in because of your magnetic mass.
Yeah.
Oh, I love it. You guys, we could go on for days on this. I've seen some really cool examples of it. One of my favorite customers, and if he's listening right now, it's my favorite customer, Jeff Howell from Alaya Care, who heads up growth there, and he heads up the sort of sales business development. And he's been so successful in using video to not only, generate more leads and prospects, but in building the brand of both him, but more importantly of Alaya Care. And he's done it by creating just these really fun, personal, whimsical videos. And in his spare time, he learned how to do basic video editing. And he created, this like stock video for himself that he sends out to prospects. That is like these. We'll make sure that we link to it in the show notes. But it's like just this one at the end. You're part laughing, you're part crying, and you're just like, I want to work with this guy. Like, and it's his personality just comes through. You can feel his passion for what he does. Part of it, he's wearing a cape, and he's like the most remarkable man in home healthcare. And for him, it fits, right? Not everybody, like you said earlier, can get away wearing the cape, and that's fine. But he found his real, his natural. What did we refer to it earlier as?
Natural genius.
His natural genius.
Hi, I'm Jeff at Alaya Care. You don't know me from a hole in the ground, so let me explain. This is a hole in the ground. This is me. Now, I might not be the sharpest knife in the drawer or the most electrifying man in home care today, but I think that you rock, and I just want to get on your radar screen. You see, I like to think outside of the box, and I'm sure you do as well. But I suspect that sometimes you just feel a little overwhelmed in your business. But you're someone who wants to grab the low-hanging fruit, hit the ground running, and you really don't want to spin your wheels. The bottom line is this: life gets hectic. You ask a lot of your employees, from schedulers to caregivers, and you need some help. You need a system that is truly end-to-end that will save you time and money while driving referrals, and most of all, it will help deliver the best care and best outcomes in a value-based pay world. So don't drop the ball, because Alaya Care has game-changing home care software. And I'm certainly not going to creep you on LinkedIn. Ugh, those LinkedIn people. I'm also not going to pull any crazy marketing stunts that don't make any sense. But I do have one ask, and that is, book a demo. Just do it now. Do it after this video.
So before we go, we talked about a lot of great stuff here, and all of our listeners are probably thinking, oh my God, I got to go, like, how do I action this stuff? Where can I go to find some related resources on these ideas and start learning the best practices and make sure I actually do these things? So would you guys mind sharing where people can find you, where they can find resources, where you guys talk about some of these that they can apply for themselves? And maybe we'll start with Dianna.
Sure. Come to www.tradeshowmakeover.com and schedule 30 minutes right there on the website, on the homepage. Watch our video of what you can expect. Schedule 30 minutes with a Trade Show Makeover mentor, and I promise you'll get an aha moment that you hadn't thought of.
Well, in addition to that, Dianna and I together, we both have separate practices, but we come together with the same passion purpose for sellers. And you can find that on YouTube at the SellOut Show. and SellOut is one word. And what's really interesting about the SellOut show is that we don't fill the show up with experts. We want practitioners, people actually working in the day-to-day of sales and selling. We bring on some of the SDRs and AEs that are killing it, because we really want it to be actionable stuff for boots on the ground, phone in the hand salespeople. So go to YouTube and the SellOut show, subscribe. We would love for you to do that. And then you can find me at thesellingagency.com. Dianna and I are both all over LinkedIn and Twitter and all those places. But the SellOutShow.com
are brilliant. Subscribe to her blog. They are brilliant.
Yeah, the Selling Agency blog, it's called The Pipeline, because you should always keep your pipeline full of good stuff. And every week, I know I've done my job when the blog and the email goes out and I get response say, did you write that about me? Or did you know that just happened to me last week? Everyone thinks it's about them, because it is about the conversations I'm having in sales meetings with my sales teams, with them on the phone. I would just cut off my nose. The most useful and actionable and tangible. I am a Midwest pragmatic girl at heart. So that's where you'll find me. And then connect with us on LinkedIn.
Consistent communication to break into a buyer's long-term memory. Building relationships with buyers, not just qualifying and converting. Creating an organizational gravity through binge-worthy content to draw in new prospects. I think we covered at least 100 yards in this action-packed conversation with Dianna and Shawn. And while there's no single Hail Mary that will transform your sales results, if you can tap into your natural genius and apply some of these proven concepts, you'll immediately stand out from the crowd by connecting with your buyers on a more personal and emotional level. Thanks for joining us on Creating Connections, brought to you by the fine folks here at Vidyard. If you enjoyed the show, give it a like or a share, hit that subscribe button for future episodes, and check out the podcast version now available on your favorite podcast platform.